Nice to see the room filled this evening. We'll get started in about 10 seconds here. Appreciate you being here. Every meeting's a fun meeting, but this one I think has some particularly positive community vibe to it. So, all right. Welcome to the Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 meeting of the Eden Prairie City Council. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. It's customary for me to read an invitation for open podium, which we don't always have every meeting, prior to every meeting, but we did tonight. It was nice to see a group of residents come. Open podium is an opportunity for Eden Prairie residents to address the City Council on issues related to Eden Prairie City government prior to each council meeting. Council meetings are typically the first and third Tuesday of each month. These open podiums occur from 6:30 a.m. Come early, 6:30 p.m. to 6:55 p.m. here in the council chamber. If you wish to speak at open podium, please contact the city manager's office at 952-949-8412 by noon of the meeting date with your name, your phone number, and subject matter so we can be better prepared for you. Open podium is not recorded or televised. If you have questions about open podium, please do contact the city manager's office. So, Mr. Getcho, we have, again, some positive, enjoyable experiences here to share. So if you want to, I'll turn it back over to you to talk about the first recognition.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council members, yes, our first presentation is a life-saving recognition. And so I would like our two chiefs, our police chief, Matt Sackett, and fire chief, Scott Gerber, to come up and recognize this family and others that played a role in a life-saving event.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to introduce to you the Lovis family, Lonnie and Nate, and their children, Torben, Finner, and Micah. I would also like to recognize the dispatchers, police officers, firefighters, and paramedics that are in the room that were part of this response. Well, all of you that are here, please stand, and many of you are already standing. On September 14th, 2023, at 4:56 p.m., our dispatch center received a 911 call for a medical emergency involving a female at a home on Riley Lake Road. Based on the call information, Eden Prairie Fire, Eden Prairie Police, and Hennepin EMS were dispatched to the scene. When police and fire arrived on scene, they found a female, Lonnie, unresponsive on the floor with family members providing care. First arriving police officers and firefighters assumed care, began CPR, and applied an AED, or an automatic external defibrillator. At this time, firefighters were providing airway management and breathing for Lonnie as well. The AED analyzed and advised for a shock to be delivered. This shock was delivered within minutes of the first responder arrival, and CPR was continued. Comprehensive patient care was continued by the police officers, firefighters, and paramedics on scene. A short time later, the patient had a pulse. Ongoing, high-quality emergency medical care was delivered by the police officers, firefighters, and Hennepin EMS paramedics that were on the scene and en route to the hospital. Comfort care was also provided to family members on scene by the police officers and the firefighters. We're extremely thankful of the initial care provided by Lonnie by her family, including calling 911. We're also extremely grateful for the support of our community and our elected and appointed officials for allowing us to have the high-quality, life-saving equipment and training that our police officers and firefighters receive. Finally, we're particularly grateful to our dispatchers, police officers, firefighters, and Hennepin EMS paramedics for their high-quality patient care so that Lonnie and all of the Lovis family are able to stand here with us tonight. Chief Sackett has a letter he'd like to read, and we have a few items we'd like to present to the family and to the staff. Chief Sackett.
All right, I have a letter here for the Lovis family. Dear Nate, Finner, Micah, and Torben, On behalf of the Eden Prairie Police and Fire Departments, we would like to thank you for your heroic efforts on September 14th, 2023, when you helped save the life of your wife and mother. The officers who responded that day said that your efforts in calling 911 and performing chest compressions were critical to saving her life. We know this must have been a frightening time for all of you, but your ability to think clearly and act quickly made it easier for our first responders to enter your home and provide medical care to Lonnie. We'd like to award each of you with a challenge coin for the bravery you demonstrated that day. Signed by Matt Sackett, Police Chief, and Scott Gerber, Fire Chief. Congratulations. Through the mayor. We're going to take a picture real quick with you here. There's one for you. You get one too. You both police. They're both cool. I mean, police and fire.
Mayor and Council, I would just share that with staff, we do have pins that are Heart Saver pins that we provide to our police and fire staff, and we'll do those out in the atrium tonight, just as you continue your meeting.
One of the joys of having taught in Eden Prairie for 33 years and having had 3,000 sixth graders is to run across them again in my life. And I had Nate in sixth grade. So, okay, Mr. Getcho, I think we're on to Sustainable Eden Prairie Awards.
We are, Mayor. So we've got the left side of the chambers covered earlier. We're going to cover the right side of the chambers for this item. We have our annual Sustainable Eden Prairie Awards. Very excited on a regular basis for our commission, with the support of the council, to honor residents and businesses and people in our community who show leadership and action in sustainability. Our commission takes the applications, they choose the award winners, and as you see, as they've done in the past and they're going to do tonight, they award the recipients during this council meeting. All of our commission members, especially our student commission members as well. So maybe I don't remember the whole protocol, but our chair, Aaron, is here. Are you kicking this off, or are we just jumping into the first award with the first student? I'm sorry to kind of. We're going to let the students. We're going to let the students go. So. Yeah, they've got a series of awards, Mayor, Council, that they'll be giving out. And if that's okay, we're going to start with our first person.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Isaac Kepper.
And my name is Riley Brazil, and we are student commissioners on the Sustainability Commission. We are pleased to join you tonight to present this year's Sustainable Eden Prairie Award Program. This award recognizes residents and businesses who have made a significant contribution to the overall sustainability of our community in the focus areas of energy, landscape, waste, and water. This is the 7th year of the award.
Nominations were received by the Sustainability Commission, who selected the winning projects. Tonight, we're honoring 4 award recipients, and our fellow sustainability student commissioners will be assisting with the presentation. So with that, I'd like to invite Alyssa and Sophie to introduce the recipient in the landscape category.
Good evening, my name is Alyssa Ayler. And my name is Sophie Kane, and we are student commissioners serving on the Sustainability Commission. Our recipient tonight in the landscape category is Rustic Hills Garden Company. Rustic Hills Garden Company provides planning and design services for landscaping and edible gardens with a focus on native flowers, grasses, shrubs, and trees for pollinators and other wildlife.
Rustic Hills Garden Company also provides workshops and coaching to help customers maintain and care for their edible landscapes, and their designs help keep stormwater on site to use for irrigation. Would representatives of Rustic Hills Garden Company please come up and accept your award? Yeah? Okay, awesome. All right. Next, I'd like to invite Lily and Lucy up to the podium to introduce the recipient in the water category.
Good evening. My name is Lily Timpey.
And my name is Lucy Dowdle-Osborne, and we are also student commissioners on the Sustainability Commission. Our recipient tonight in the water category is Lori Tritz. Ms. Tritz's yard epitomizes sustainability. The permaculture landscape includes fruit trees and shrubs, vegetables, and herbs. To support the plantings, she has rain barrels that collect rainwater for irrigation. She also has a rain garden with native plants to clean her rooftop water before it is infiltrated.
She also has her own YouTube channel where she shares information about her backyard and is a master naturalist, water steward, and serves on the board of the Prairie Edge chapter of Wild Ones. Would Lori Tritz please come forward to accept your award? Next, I'd like to invite Roshan and Pranav to introduce our recipient in the energy category.
Good evening, my name is Roshan Gurumurthy.
And my name is Pranav Narayanan, and we are also student commissioners serving on the Sustainability Commission. Our recipient tonight in the energy category is Sun Opta. Sun Opta is a plant-based food and drink provider with a focus on sustainability who recently installed a significant rooftop solar project on their headquarters. The 742-panel project produces an estimated 447,000 kilowatt hours of electricity per year.
They have also made other sustainable upgrades to their building, including renewable bamboo flooring, LED lighting, indoor trees and planting, organic gardening spaces for employees, and 4 EV charging stations. Would representatives of Sun Opta please come forward and accept your reward? Finally, I'd like to invite Kate and Kirthi to introduce our recipients in the waste category.
Good evening, my name is Kate Ropechek.
And my name is Kirti Timu. We are also student commissioners serving on the Sustainability Commission. Our recipient tonight in the waste category is Dick Rawlings. Mr. Rawlings has been patrolling the roads around Flagstone Senior Community every day for the last 5 years, pushing his walker and picking up trash. He occasionally stretches the boundaries of how far away he's supposed to go, but he enjoys his time outside and is proud of how clean the area now is.
He told Eden Prairie Local News that his message to the community is that you must care about the environment, and he hopes the community will join him. Mr. Rawlings is an inspiration for everyone in Eden Prairie on how they can do their part. Unfortunately, Mr. Rawlings was not able to attend tonight, but he will be receiving his plaque tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Rawlings.
In closing, I'd like to say congratulations to all of our award winners tonight and all the recipients. Thank you to the student members for presenting, and thank you to the Sustainability Commissioners who were able to attend tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the best things I think we ever started. And Mr. Getchell, I feel like you brought it to the city as our student commissioners, or did we have it long before you were here?
Man, I love this mayor.
You
they were here long
you
before.
expanded
They were
it,
here
didn't you?
before.
I mean, we are so you're all laughing now at me.
They
We
were
are
here.
so proud of our student commissioners and what great job you all did tonight. Inspiration to all of us. So thank you for serving, and thank you for all that you're doing to make Eden Prairie better. So we appreciate it very much. So with that, Mr. Getchell, we have a couple donations.
We do, Mayor. We have some pretty major donations here for our police and fire department from the Eden Prairie Lions Club. So I know that we do have membership leadership from our Lions Club, president, I believe, and other members that will be coming to present some funding for our police and fire department. And so again, the Lions Club and our police chief and fire chief are welcome to come up.
We have President Louis, so thank you for being here.
You're welcome. This is what we brought.
It's awesome.
Want to hang on to it? My name is Louis Wendling, and as president of the Eden Prairie Lions Club, I have the great pleasure and honor to present this $16,000 check to the city of Eden Prairie for the benefit of the police department and the fire department in recognition of your first-rate service to our community. The board of directors and entire membership of our local Lions Club, thank you for your tireless dedication in keeping us safe. Many, many thanks.
I'll come right down in just a second, Louis, but just hang there for a moment. And Gary, you can come on up to that area as well. I just, disclaimer, I'm a member of the Lions Club. I love being a member of the Lions Club. We have phenomenal nonprofits, as you know, across Eden Prairie. The Lions are so special because they not only supply so many activities to across our year, which are really amenities to the community here, schooner days, corn feed, pancake breakfast, it just goes on. But every dollar that's raised is given back. Every dollar that's raised is given back. And this was a good year. The dollars that they're giving out are just so appreciated by the community. So this is a very special gift. And every time we get a donation, I say that, yes, tax dollars do a lot for us, can only go so far. These dollars help us expand what the tax dollars actually are able to do. So on behalf of being a Lion, but on behalf of all of you here as Lions Club leadership, thank you, and please bring that, our gratitude back to the entire Lions. Anybody else want to say anything on
Yeah,
this?
I just want to see what is in that cardboard there, blank cardboard you have.
No, you didn't get to see it.
Ah, now we got it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The breakdown is $10,000 for a new police drone and $6,000 for the fire department. Apparently, they needed an airway suction device, and hopefully 6 of them at $1,000 a pop. So hopefully that will do the job for them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Behind it, and we'll hold this somehow, or how we want to do it. You want to come over here a little bit? Get in, yeah, crowded. All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So that's the real check now.
All right, Mr. Gacho, we have another donation.
Do we have to make a motion on the Lions?
Do we need, oh, we
Yes,
do.
you do.
we
Thank you.
do.
Councilmember Toomey is correct.
Thank you so much for reminding me of that. Is there, I'm assuming there's no discussion on this, is there a motion to accept and receive this donation?
I'll move to adopt a resolution accepting the donation of $6,000 towards the purchase of fire department emergency services equipment, including airway management devices, and $10,290 towards the purchase of police department equipment storage and technology solutions for unmanned aerial systems vehicles.
Second.
All right, any further discussion or at least comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right. Mr. Getchell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We do have a donation, and we all agreed that the first comments from our new Park and Recreation Director, Amy Markle, who was introduced at the last meeting but is here tonight, would be very fitting for her first remarks at council would be related to a donation that Parks and Recreation has received. So I'll turn it over to her.
All right, and welcome.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Case and Council. Tonight's first donation is $400 from the Prairie Bluff Senior Living, and that will go towards the 2024 Senior Center events. That includes the Valentine's Bingo and Breakfast and the Summer Barbecue. The second donation is for $250 from the RE/MAX Results Change Agent Group in Edina. And it goes towards the 2024 Senior Awareness Month activities, which will be held in the month of May. So overall, both donations will help offset costs for participants and just enhance all of the activities planned there.
Excellent. Very nice job.
Thank you. More to come, I'm sure.
I'm absolutely positive. Is there a motion to accept this donation?
I'll move to adopt the resolution accepting the donation of $400 from Prairie Bluffs Senior Living toward the 2024 Senior Center events, including Valentine's Bingo and Breakfast and Summer Barbecue, and the donation of $250 from RE/MAX Results Change Agent Group, Edina, towards the 2024 Senior Awareness Month activities.
Second. Okay. Any further comment or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, Mr. Getchell, I believe I can just go right into the Small Business Saturday proclamation. We often, as a council, grant proclamations honoring or recognizing specific important events. And of course, we have such a great relationship and partnership with our business community here in Eden Prairie. We absolutely want to support them on Small Business Saturday. So, proclamation, City of Eden Prairie, Hennepin County, Minnesota, Small Business Saturday. Whereas the City of Eden Prairie celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to the local economy and community, and whereas the Small Business Administration, as well as advocacy groups and other public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, and whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent at a small business in the United States actually stays in the local community, that's incredible. And whereas according to the United States Census, there are over 38,000 small businesses with fewer than 100 employees in Hennepin County only, that's interesting too, representing only 96% of all businesses in the county. And whereas Hennepin County has partnered with several cities in the county and the Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority to support Small Business Saturday with the multi-jurisdictional Love Local campaign, which encourages residents to support local, independently owned businesses that create jobs, boost the local economy, and make our communities vibrant and livable. And whereas for many, the Thanksgiving holiday kicks off a season of gathering, dining, shopping, experiencing arts and culture, and consumers know that supporting small, independently owned businesses has positive social, economic, and environmental impacts. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Eden Prairie does hereby proclaim November 25th, 2023 as Small Business Saturday in Eden Prairie and urges the residents of our community to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Ronald A. Case, Mayor, on behalf of Council Members Kathy Nelson, Mark Freiberg, PG Narayanan, and Lisa Toomey. All right. Where are we at here, Mr.
That was
Guttos?
good.
Yes, well, it is. Eden Prairie has so much good going on with it, right? I mean, and tonight illustrated that with our nonprofits, our student volunteers, our partnerships with business. We have a really great community. So thank you all for serving. All right, let's get up and get a big group hug here. Nope, okay. All right. Moving on to approval of agenda and other items of business. Is there a motion? Well, let me ask first. Any additions to the agenda? And I just want to say I have a brief council member report item that I'll add. Anybody else have anything? So is there a motion then to approve the agenda with my addition?
I move to approve the agenda with the addition from the mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes. Are there any parts of the minutes that you wish to question, edit, add, delete, something, tweak? If not, if there was a motion to approve both of the workshop and the council meeting held back October 17th.
Move to approve the following city council minutes. Council workshop held Tuesday, October 17, 2023. City council meeting held Tuesday, October 17, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to the consent calendar, which again, if you're listening on TV or days later after this, the consent calendar are generally more housekeeping type items that generally don't require our specific attention in the sense of a discussion. However, council, any items that you wish to pull off of the consent calendar? If not, is there a motion to approve items A through L on the consent calendar?
Move approval of items A through L on the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. All right. Public hearings. Mr. Getchell, we have a code amendment, Chapter 11.
We do, Mayor. We have 2 code amendments, and I believe Julie's going to provide a brief report leading up to both of the public hearings.
Mayor, members of the council, the first code amendment before you this evening is essentially a reformatting of Chapter 11, the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance was originally adopted in 1969, and while it has had amendments during that time frame, there's never been a complete retooling or reformatting of that ordinance. So the ordinance reformatting is essentially trying to move sections of the ordinance into areas that make it more intuitive to the users and easier to navigate online. So there's really not any substantive changes, with the exception of 2 that I'll explain later. It's just reorganizing the language that's already there. The 2 exceptions to that rule are the current language about medical marijuana. That language is proposed to be deleted or repealed because the recent legislation essentially has made that language null and void. Secondarily, the other amendment that is more substantive is currently code requires any development projects in the town center or TOD zoning districts to be required to go through a PUD process. The sustainable building standard that the council recently took action on, as you know, applies to projects that either seek city financing or other public financing, as well as a PUD approval. So we want to remove that PUD language to make sure that that sustainable building policy is an opt-in option for those that are seeking those incentives through the city process. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Council, we will have a public hearing, but are there any clarifying questions at this point? All right. For the audience, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience interested in addressing the council on this issue this evening of the Code Amendment, Chapter 11 reformat? Seeing no one, council, is there someone that would maybe move to close the public hearing? And if you're comfortable, going ahead and moving to approve adoption of the first reading.
Move to close the public hearing and approve the first reading of the ordinance to reformat and reorganize Chapter 11.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Gatcho, or unless you want to go right back to, okay. Proceed then with the code amendment sign code.
Mayor, members of the council, the second code amendment this evening is some revisions to the sign ordinance. Again, these are largely housekeeping in nature. For instance, one of those amendments refers to how we measure the sign area. Right now, code talks about that being a rectangular shape. With technology improvements, we're able to fine-tune that a little bit and be able to measure any shape. In addition, as you know, there have been some recent amendments to the code that have been before you for signage. I believe there were 2 within the last year, year and a half. And as a part of that, now that we've been utilizing those sections of the code, we found some inconsistencies that were maybe lost as we made those revisions. So we want to provide back in some exemptions for address signs, as an example, not counting toward wall signage. In addition, clarifying that in the Gulf and industrial and public zoning districts, that wall signage by area is what is required rather than by, or is limited rather than by number. So those again are largely housekeeping items, and we're bringing those forward for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. If, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on the code amendment sign code issue? If not, council, anyone want to move to close the public hearing? And if you're comfortable going ahead and making the motion to approve the first reading.
Move to close the public hearing and approve the first reading of the ordinance to amend the sign code.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. All right, moving on to payment of claims. Any expenditures, when you read through the pages of listing since our last meeting, any expenditures you wish to question or ask more, well, that would be the same, asking questions about it or finding out more about it. If not, is there a motion to approve payment of claims as submitted?
I'll move for approval of payment of claims as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. All right, Mr. Getchell, we do have one ordinance, I guess, does that count as a resolution, but ordinance conversation tonight and a vote.
We do, Mayor, thank you. I don't want to steal the thunder of the brief presentation you're going to receive from Mr. Stanley, our Housing Community Services Manager, but as you know, for the last 3 years or more, the City Council and task forces and commissions have tackled a number of housing issues. Housing is a very important topic for the city and City Council, and on the kind of long list of to-do items that we've had over the years, inclusionary housing ordinance, establishing a housing trust fund, tenant protections is another one of those major items that we've had on our agenda. You have discussed this topic at no less than probably 6 workshops over the last 3 years, and that leads to the first reading of an ordinance relating to tenant protections that Mr. Stanley will walk you through. And as you know, maybe the public doesn't know, but ordinances, even if not requiring public hearings, need multiple readings. So we would need to come back at a future council meeting for a second reading of the ordinance. But tonight we are presenting this ordinance for first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Getchell. Good evening, Mayor Case, council members. I'm happy to be here tonight. As Mr. Getchell indicated, you have seen this concept before. I presented on the topic of naturally occurring affordable housing, which is a particular type of housing that's privately owned, unsubsidized, and by nature of its age, condition, or value is just naturally affordable in the market, something being lost not only in the Twin Cities but nationwide. Tenant protection ordinance is an idea that comes kind of along with that NOAA housing. So the idea is you try to protect and preserve what you can, but when something can't be saved, try to protect some of the tenants from certain things that I'll be discussing here tonight. So what exactly is a tenant protection ordinance? It provides temporary protection after a building sale. So keep that in mind as I go through the presentation. This is only in case where a building has been sold. And it really acts as a safeguard for existing low-income tenants of those properties. And again, it's typically focused on naturally occurring affordable housing, but what I'll be proposing tonight actually includes certain properties that have timed out of their affordability restrictions, such as properties that have been subsidized by the city with TIF financing. It protects against 3 primary things: against rent increases during the first 90 days, evictions without a just cause, and then rescreening of tenants such that they could be refused ongoing tenancy. In other words, if somebody came in, a new owner came in and said, you know, we used to require two months payment as, or 2 months income as rent, now it's going to be 3 months, for example. And these have been adopted by a number of cities in the region, including Bloomington, Edina, St. Louis Park, Golden Valley, Brooklyn Center, et cetera. So a lot of what you see is modeled after their experience in both trying to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing and in enacting tenant protection ordinances. So why is a TPO needed in Eden Prairie? Like I said, in the region, NOAA and formerly subsidized affordable housing, where the housing requirements have been expired, is being lost at a dramatic rate, something to the tune of about 1,300 units in the region per year. In Eden Prairie alone, 7 of the properties that meet the NOAA definition as we've defined it here have changed hands since 2015 alone. So there has been quite a bit of activity. Of course, with interest rates going higher, it's maybe not the best time to be purchasing properties, but we expect that to return. And we have a number of properties, about 17 properties in Eden Prairie meet the NOAA definition as we've defined it. Without protection, there can be displacement concerns, or existing low-income tenants can be forced to pay high cost burdens. So if you may recall from our previous conversations, if a tenant pays more than 30% of their income on rent, they're considered cost burden. If they pay more than 50%, they're considered extremely cost burden. And what this TPO really does is it provides time for tenants to consider their options, as well as their financial resources available to help weather the storm if they choose to move. So how is the TPO designed? It would apply to properties with at least 20% of units affordable to households at or below 80% of the area median income. It would be triggered at application for the new rental license that the owner needs to secure. Again, the tenant protection period would last for 90 days. It requires immediate notice of a sale and ownership intent to both the tenants and to the city. What do I mean by ownership intents? That notice has to state whether they intend to raise the rent, and if so, when and by how much. It also clarifies whether they will be using any rescreening or different criteria for considering tenancy in the building. And then it also makes very clear that eviction can only happen with cause. It provides low-income tenants compensation in the form of 3 months' rent if those terms are violated. And then again, this ordinance design is very consistent with peer communities. You see the little asterisk there in my presentation. I only wanted to point out there that most of the peer cities have pegged their policies or their ordinances such that it's affordable to households at or below 60% of the AMI, but we're recommending for Eden Prairie that we raise that to 80%, as we are a relatively high-cost community. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions or have any further discussion.
I just had a clarifying question that the 90 days applies to all 3, the rent increase, the evictions without cause, and the rescreening. So it protects for 90 days, 3 months. And then we would know ahead of time if on the 91st day they would have, in their license application, the intent, they would have shared, yes, we intend to raise rent to this point, we intend to rescreen, that type of thing?
Yeah, Mayor Case, you are correct that it would apply those 3 different conditions that I articulated. And then the notice needs to be given within the first 30 days of ownership. So within a pretty reasonable time frame, folks will know whether they'll be subjected to those.
And the 90 days starts when?
I believe I'll defer to Ms. Neville here, actually. I believe it begins at the time of rental license approval.
Right, every time a building changes hands, the new owner has to come in for a new rental license with the city. The fire department handles those. And so that's kind of what we decided would be a good trigger point, that the city will actually know about the ownership change. And I'm informed that owners and new owners are pretty good about coming to the city or notifying us ahead of time, like, hey, we're gonna be buying this building, what do we need to do to get our new rental license? So that's kind of the most, kind of an objective time point that we landed on. That's a reasonable time to start that.
So the moment they walk in and apply, prior even to approval?
No, well, they can't operate the building before approval. So it's going to be triggered upon approval.
Okay.
But there is the remedy that if they don't comply, it can result in suspension or revocation of the license.
And the notification to the renters is on the new owners, and how do we ensure that that takes place?
They're required to send a copy to the city as well. And Jonathan, maybe you can speak a little bit to that about how
How do we enforce that? Yeah, that they actually sent it to, and it was received by the renters.
That's a good point, and I'm afraid that the details may not have been fully developed there yet, but we could require that it be sent by certified mail, such that it's guaranteed to be received.
What do other cities do?
I don't know the answer to that question. I apologize.
Maggie, do you know what's reasonable in that situation?
It might be one of those things until we know we have a problem, then we can fix it. I know Jonathan and I talked about this a little bit in the drafting process, in how are we going to know that citizens have that, and we talked about, maybe some city reach out too. We want to put most of the onus on the owner.
Right.
But, we could do it by certified mail or something like that. I believe we're required to be posted at the building too. I think we included that in the ordinance, so that's something we can check on.
Okay.
I think, Mayor, really quickly, again, the several cities have this provision, so I think Jonathan could easily find out between first and second reading the logistics of the notice.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty comfortable with a posting and mailed notice, even if it wasn't certified. Word will travel fast.
Right.
But maybe, as Maggie said, other cities are doing certified mail, and so should we, but we can find that out between first and second reading.
Councilmember Freiberg, and then I'll come down.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I've got a question. How does that 90 days stack up to the other cities? Is anyone going to 120?
Councilmember Freiberg, no. It's been 90 across the board. I do recall from our workshop that the idea of 120 days was raised. There's nothing magical about 90. I think the one thing that folks probably were leaning on in terms of setting that date was trying to find some kind of medium ground between the new owners' ability to get their business kind of up and running and how it'll be normally functioning, but obviously giving enough time for folks to consider whether they want to try to stay in the building or find other.
That's what I was looking for, to see if there's conformity between the cities.
There is.
I think that's important, yeah.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah. Does this also apply to like a single-family home that's been rented, but they've decided to sell it, and the new people moving in will become owners of the house and live in the house? Does this apply to them as well, or is this just multiple properties?
Councilmember Nelson, in this case, we're proposing just a multifamily ordinance, and that is also the case in the peer cities that we've looked at.
Thank you.
Others?
No, I was going to ask what Councilmember Freiberg asked. So.
All right.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, if there is nothing else, would there be somebody wanting to make a motion to approve this first reading?
I'll move to approve the first reading of a tenant protection ordinance affording low-income tenants of naturally occurring affordable housing and certain multifamily housing developments that were publicly subsidized but no longer carry affordability restrictions, certain protections after a property sale.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
I'm happy that we're doing this. I think it's really good.
Yeah, and it comes really right out of our direction as we're looking at our affordable housing issues, which really we've been looking at, well, I guess for 5 years, really, if you think about it.
It's surprising. What is it, since 2017?
2015.
5 properties, is it?
7.
7 properties, and we're talking maybe some are quite large, am I right?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, all these properties are 100 units and more, basically.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah.
All right. I believe we're just down to just the report of council members, and that's all we've got.
One more report by Mr. Ellis after that.
We do. I
Crosswalks.
didn't turn the page.
Crosswalks.
All right. Sorry, I was going to rip you off there. So I'll go quickly then. I've had 2 residents contact me, and you may have had some as well. I wanted to bring this idea up to the council and really ask all of you, is it something you're interested in having staff dig deeper? And that's all I'm looking for this evening, just are we interested in investigating? So here's the issue. It's kind of interesting in a way that all the years I was a 6th grade teacher, I would give examples of why we need government in Eden Prairie. And one of the examples was, if you have an old rusted car that doesn't run and it's parked out in the grass in your front yard, you just don't want it to stay there and sit there and rot, for decades. We have rules to protect that so that neighbors don't have to have that happen in the yard next to them. Well, what's come up a little bit is this idea of how many cars can you park in a single family home out in the driveway. And then more than that, then it gets into a little bit more detail with a couple of these instances. And we've been over this, by the way. This may sound familiar to you. We had some of you that were on the council back, I think, around 2019 maybe. Maybe it's before that, Mr. Getchell. But the idea of, do they have to run? Do they have to be licensed? And now one issue that got raised with me this last week, it's one thing to start it, but does it have to go out on the road? In other words, the engine may run, but if the tires are flat and it's sitting there and there's 7 vehicles, is that okay? And then if you have 7 or 8 or 9 vehicles just in a driveway when there's 2 people living there, maybe they run. Is that okay? So what it started in my mind was to raise just a lot of issues, and I called Jim Shadeen, had a great conversation with him this week. And it's not easy. There's all kinds of what ifs. What if you have a rental house that has 4 units in it? You certainly want an exception there to have 4, 5, 6 vehicles. What if you're a family that has 4 college kids and they're all home for the summer, and so there's 6 cars suddenly? Okay, that's okay. I mean, it's all these things that inadvertent consequences. You don't want to get into issues where truly you're solutionizing and trying to find the problem associated with it. I'm not suggesting that, but I think the image of a car or cars, many cars, sitting in a yard in a suburban area where everybody is $700,000-800,000 homes, and 3 of them probably couldn't drive 2 feet. I mean, they're just sitting there, their tires are flat. Maybe they start, maybe they're licensed. We already have an ordinance, has to be on some type of pavement. It has to be licensed. You have to be able to start it. But I just want to know, is it time to find out what other cities are doing? I know that Minnetonka has rules that we don't have on numbers of cars, other cities around us. So here's what I'm asking all of you. Are you comfortable directing staff just to take a look at this again and find out what other cities in Minnesota are doing? What are suburban cities doing across the nation? Where do we cross a line into individual freedoms versus then you're impacting the freedoms of your neighbors, right? I mean, that's every rule we pass simultaneously limits somebody's freedom and gives you more freedom because it limits other people's freedoms, right? And so I just want to kind of get a sense on where are we at with this multiple car issue, and do we want to tweak and tighten up pieces of it? And I think Jim Shadeen, our expert, would be the great guy to do some of this research and maybe come back with a quick report. Are you all okay with that? Councilmember Freiberg.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because I think over the years that I've been on the council, I've dealt with it too many times as the question's coming up. And I guess I never quite heard it the way you just described it. Does it start? Is it drivable? You're breaking it down that far. I think that in itself leads it to yes, to dig deeper. Because if others have different rules than we do, we deal with it way too much. And I can think of properties right now, it's a duplex, but I bet there's at least 7 cars in that driveway. And it's a duplex, and I'm thinking, we can think of numerous properties like that, and yeah, it's kind of rough, so.
And again, we, just in case someone's listening, and I don't want to worry anyone on any side of anything here, I just want us to investigate what's normal, what's acceptable. I thought in my head that I have a lot of friends that, not a lot, but several that collect antique cars, and they have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but they have garages for them. And then here's another part too, is that if you have a 3-car garage, we're not talking about cars inside. We're not talking about how many cars you own. We're talking about this nice suburban area that you have a lot of vehicles that don't look good and they don't run on a road. They may start, they have to be licensed according to current ordinance. So I just want us to look at, are we hitting where we want to hit? Maybe we are, but it'd be nice to have it looked at. You all okay with that? Okay. All right. Ready for Mr. Ellis. Mr. Getchell, do you want to say anything before Mr. Ellis comes up?
No, Mayor, this is, the one thing I'll mention is Mr. Ellis's update does not require any action. So this is a really good presentation that he's going to provide on pedestrian crossing treatments.
Excellent.
All right, yeah, Mayor Case, City Council. I have a just quick informational item for you tonight, and it's about pedestrian crossing treatments. And this really stems from, I think, COVID. COVID brought a lot of people out to our trail and sidewalk system, which is a good thing. And as we've kind of returned to normal, the traffic has picked up. So I think people felt comfortable in 2020 walking around when there wasn't a lot of traffic. But now that the traffic's returning, they've been calling our engineering division quite a bit, saying, hey, I think we need a marked crosswalk here. Or if there's a crosswalk, we need additional signage or lights. And so we spent most of 2024 just looking at this because we agreed. We think that we do need to standardize how we evaluate intersections, determine if additional safety measures are needed. So we spent the better part of 2023 taking a look at what other cities across the country, across Minnesota, across the metro were doing. And we ended up developing some guidelines that we will begin using as we start responding to those citizens' requests for additional treatment. So I have a short presentation here that I wanted to go over. And I'll start with some of the possible pedestrian treatments. So we're talking about something as simple as street lighting. Maybe it's dark, it needs additional lighting at night. Maybe it's improved sight lines because there's bushes or trees that are hiding the pedestrian from the vehicle traffic. But then it might be something like warning signage, you know, just a pedestrian crossing ahead or pedestrian crossing here. And sometimes that might be those little signs that you see in the middle of the road, like we have out here in front of City Center at the crosswalk. And then you get a little bit more aggressive. There's also taking a look at curb extensions or bump outs. We also have refuge islands, a possibility for installing an island in the middle of the road so that a pedestrian can get halfway across the road, wait safely for a gap in traffic to get them the rest of the way across the road. There's also marked crosswalks. There's the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, the RRFB, and then the high intensity activated crosswalk, which somehow they pull Hawk out of that if you pick the right letters, but I have photos of all of these that I'll go over. And then finally, it might just be a pedestrian signal, a signal that looks just like a traffic signal, but it's maybe mid-block, and it works just like a signal. So the pedestrian pushed the button, traffic would go to red, they would get their walk light. So again, pedestrian warning signs, we're simply talking, you know, these are fairly uniform across the city. You see them at some crosswalks. There's also the curb extensions. You see here where the curb was extended out into the roadway. A lot of time that's in a parking area. Just shortens the distance the pedestrian has to walk across the roadway, so it minimizes that exposure time. The pedestrian refuge island, they take a lot of shapes and sizes, but here's an example of one in Washington where it just provides a safe harbor area in the middle of the road. You can break the trip up into two as you're looking for that safe gap across. And then the RRFB, we have, I believe, 3 of these in Eden Prairie. It's a yield. It doesn't require the vehicle to stop, but the pedestrian pushes the button. The beacons begin to flash. It alerts the driver that somebody's trying to cross. They need to yield to that person as they're in the crosswalk. And then after a certain period of time, it times out and the vehicle can drive again.
Robert, I saw that was solar there, so I'm assuming that's a lot cheaper than, you know, if you had to go wire it, right?
You know, it's probably pretty comparable.
Is it?
But it's the monthly cost because XL Energy will hit you with a $10 a month, $15 a month base charge plus the energy you use. So if you add that up over the life of 15 years, yeah, it does become much more cost effective to go solar long term. And we would look at doing solar where...
And I may be getting ahead of this, but I'm just thinking that I'm assuming one of the things that you do and will do and maybe even recommending that you look at all of our intersections across the entire city and start to prioritize these 2 deserve this kind of treatment, these 10 deserve that. Because this is an interesting one here that I can think of, you know, a handful that would be necessary. And so I'm assuming you're looking at that right now.
We do, and I have a slide that kind of what we anticipate by employing these guidelines, what might the result be? How many of those types of RRFBs?
Budget implications, obviously, but it's safety. So, I mean, I think we're all pretty much behind this.
And then here's a demonstration of the Hawk. There's a handful of these around the metro, but essentially the way the Hawk works is the pedestrian pushes the button. Well, I guess I should begin. The light is dark. There is no indication at all until a pedestrian pushes the button. Then the driver begins to see the flashing yellow arrow, and that means get ready to stop. Then it'll go to a solid yellow, and then it goes to a red. When it goes red, that's when the pedestrian gets the walk signal and they can safely walk across the road. So now you've stopped traffic. It's not like the RRFB where it just kind of yields to the pedestrian. This is stop. It'll stay red for an abbreviated period of time to get most walkers all the way across the road, but some people need more time. After that period of time, it'll start flashing red, which means if the pedestrian's not in the road, now you can go, but if they are, you need to wait until they've. So if you have like a 5-lane roadway and the pedestrian is starting here, well, by the time they're over here, it's flashing red, so this driver can go, but the driver this direction would still need to wait because it's flashing and there's a pedestrian there. So that would be the Hawk installation, and each of these treatments are a little bit more expensive, as you might imagine. And then the last one I didn't really show it there was a pedestrian signal, but that's like a traffic signal. So before we evaluate an intersection, what are the things that we would consider? Of course, vehicle volumes, vehicle speeds, vehicle queuing might be an issue if they're backing up because of a nearby traffic signal. We'd also want to look at pedestrian volumes, bicycle volumes. Is this a multi-use path? Is it a sidewalk? Because we do place a higher importance on our multi-use path system. We want to drive pedestrian and bicyclists to those facilities. Also, the number of crossing lanes the pedestrian has to maneuver as they move from one side of the road to the other. Also, what is this crosswalk providing access to? Is it immediately accessible for a park, a transit station, a school, a regional trail? We put those at a higher priority than other features. And then there might be other factors we'd consider: sightline obstructions, heavy truck traffic, some of those types of things that would influence a decision. And the way the processes work is one of our engineering technicians or engineer would go out to the intersection and they'd begin to collect all that information that I just explained, all the physical data, observations when they're out there analyzing the intersection, collecting all that vehicle, speed, pedestrian count information. And once we have that information, then we can come back to the office and you can work through this flow chart that starts to ask questions. You know, is this a regional trail, a transit station, school, or park crossing? Well, if it is, then it moves you to that higher priority of doing some type of a treatment. But it'll ask you what's the minimum, volume of traffic, minimum volume of pedestrians. So you work your way through this flow chart, and if you get down to that bottom right corner, go to table 1, that's indicating, okay, you're meeting all of the types of warrants that we like to see for additional treatment. And it gets you to this table where you begin to look at the characteristics again. What is the volume of traffic on that road? What is the posted speed limit? How many lanes are there? And you would use this to identify, okay, you've got a condition of A, B, C, D, or E. And if you look at the bottom, if you land on an A, it's saying, okay, you need to put in a marked crosswalk and roadway signage. But if it's B, you're doing everything in A, the marked crosswalk and roadway signage, but you're also going to have the in-road signage. And then a step up from that is you're doing, which would be level C, and C is everything in B, plus you're making geometric improvements. That's where you're doing the curb extension or the pedestrian refuge. And then if you go beyond that to level D, that's saying, okay, now you're to the level, you probably need to put in the RRFB. You have enough volumes, high speeds, pedestrian traffic that you need to do that higher level of safety treatment. And then beyond D is E, it's saying, okay, you need to stop traffic. You need to put in a hawk or a pedestrian signal. So depending on the individual characteristics of that site, this table will help the engineer determine what's the best option to improve the safety. And then, maybe a little bit more detail. As you're considering RRFB, hawk, or pedestrian signal, this helps give some guidance on when do you start moving from the RRFB to the hawk to pedestrian signal. So again, this is just taking a little bit deeper dive into those higher level treatments to make sure you're making the right decision. But the engineer would go through all of those evaluations, the table, the chart, to start landing on what is the recommended solution here. So the guideline outcomes, what does this do? It establishes a standard, quite frankly, a standard that we don't have right now. And I think we've actually done pretty good when I take a look at the existing 170 marked crosswalks, which is more than I thought that we had. All of the crosswalks, with the exception of maybe a dozen, actually meet these standards at a minimum, that there should be a marked crosswalk. So I don't see very many of these intersections going away, but like I said, there's probably 12 that I think at one point in time it made sense to have a crosswalk there, but as roads expanded or parks moved or access to park, it kind of changed that. We wouldn't eliminate those today, but as that road is reconstructed, we'd reevaluate, should that marked crosswalk go back, or should it be moved or relocated somewhere else?
But are there any that actually endanger people, drawing people to a crosswalk where now it's gotten so busy it shouldn't be there?
I don't think that there are any that we evaluated that we felt were too dangerous, shouldn't be there. I think there were some that need more. They have a marked crosswalk, but maybe it should be an RRFB, or maybe it should have a pedestrian refuge island. So going back to the 170 existing crosswalks that we have now, I estimate that by applying this standard, there's at least 15 new marked crosswalks that would go in. So those would be on our radar for 2024 and beyond to have installed. I'd also say that we currently have 4 RRFBs in Eden Prairie, and that's between the county and city. I think there's probably as many as 13 that would now meet this standard to be installed. And then the one thing I want to highlight too is there's a lot of these locations that it has a marked crosswalk now, maybe even has a signage, but our guidance would say you need to put in the refuge island, you need to do the curb extension. So I see a lot of existing crosswalks just being improved to make them safer than they are today. And there's numerous of those, maybe a few dozen. So I see that as a huge benefit as well. So the timing of this, these do take funding, and we do have funding dedicated to these, but I think we would try to pick these off year by year, try to time them with a lot of our pavement rehab. Since we're going in and redoing the pavement, that'd be an ideal time to go in and put in a pedestrian refuge island, maybe change the curb and gutter. I think with the RRFBs, we could probably install 2 or 3 of these a year. We've actually have 2 of them programmed on Highway 101 next year. We're joining with MnDOT, and there were 2 locations that met perfect guidelines for installing an RRFB. One at Valley View Road and Highway 101 to get over to the trail on Chanhassen from Eden Prairie, and then also down at Twilight. So we have a funding source for these, and we would just slowly, as budget allows, make these improvements. And I think that's all I really had.
Robert, question. Out of 170 crosswalk we had, do we had any accidents last year or so? Or any bad accidents?
Yeah, well, we had a fatality at Highway 4 and 5, so pedestrian in that crosswalk. But beyond that, I'm not aware of any serious injuries. I'm sure there's maybe been some vehicle accidents. I'm not aware of any injuries to pedestrian or bicyclists, at least severe injury that I've been made aware of, but.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have a question about the hawk.
Yes.
When the pedestrians through the crosswalk, it starts flashing red. Don't you think that's kind of awkward? Whenever I see red on a road, I just automatically want to stop.
And you would, as a driver, it would start with the flashing yellow.
Yeah.
And then it would go to a solid yellow, meaning it's getting ready to go red, and then it goes red. And that's when the pedestrian initially will get the start walk, do the walk now, and they'll start crossing. And it'll hold that, depending on how long the crosswalk is. But it would get most able-bodied people all the way across the road. But if somebody were a little bit slower, it would go to the flashing red, which would mean.
What does that mean? I'm sorry.
It means like a railroad. You have to come to a stop at the flashing red on a railroad signal. Once it's safe to cross, you've looked and you have the right of way, there's no train coming, or in this case, there's no pedestrian that's in the roadway, then you're free to go ahead and cross.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If it's still flashing red, wouldn't you want to? Your natural inclination would be.
I think we'd have. Yeah, you're right. You're right on. I think we'd have to likely train people. I was driving in Maryland last weekend, and you know how we have the left turn yellow flashing arrow, which I love, right? They have, along with that, a left turn flashing red. I haven't seen that out in Minnesota. And what you do is you come up and it gives you the rights to go, but you have to come to a complete stop. But I guess you just get, you teach everyone. It's like roundabouts, right? I mean, I think people would learn it.
Yeah,
but I do think, yeah, it's going to be a learning curve.
I think there would be a campaign, a public awareness campaign with our first installation. But these are fairly common. Bloomington, Chaska, Cottage Grove. I mean, there's a number of cities across the metro that have them. But I think it would be a public awareness campaign before we installed our first one about.
It might help if I left Eden Prairie.
Yeah, it's probably true.
I will admit, I do like where you have these new mid-road, it looks like a little figure that has crosswalk on it, where it's a little easier to tell, especially near a senior building, school parks type stuff. Those have been showing up this last year. And I noticed that people start to pay more attention to those. So, if there's some areas that need those quicker, I assume that's a fairly cheap option. I have liked what I've seen about those.
Councilmember Freiberg.
I was just thinking of something. When you see an intersection with the lights out, all of a sudden they're flashing red. To me, it looks like four-way confusion sometimes. Maybe you've seen it yourself, like everyone's got this indecision. Do I stop? Do I go? Can I stop and go? Or I just sit there? And I wonder how long a learning curve would be on that. I don't know. Because you see that, really. But it's a great idea what you're doing on that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for all your work on this. I know it came out of a few specific instances and residents that got involved. It's just one of those nice examples, again, that we have our ear to the, I don't know what the expression is, our hand on the pulse, something. We're connected to the people of Eden Prairie and we hear a lot, but not everything. So we really appreciate when residents get involved and help staff, but help us to learn what some of the issues and problems are. So
Just one more thing. I don't know, in my neighborhood, there was a period, all the kids all gone. Now there it seems like a lot of, like this year, trick or treat, Halloween, a whole bunch of kids. I mean, it's just, the volume went up. So I was thinking related to the kids with the sidewalks and crossing, it's more important to revisit this and look at it because kids are running around.
yeah, demographics are changing in different sections of the city. It's a good.
I don't know
point.
that's true all the other neighborhood, but that's clearly our neighborhood.
I'm sure it ebbs and flows across our city, so that's important to know. You're right. All right. Is there anything else to come before the council this evening?
If not, move to adjourn the city council meeting.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.